Hi everyone, Peter here from Movement and Performance. In this presentation, we're going to cover the training of team sport athletes in the preseason specifically. So when we talk about the preseason, we need to make sure that we know what we're talking about with regard to the yearly plan. So the preseason is going to be basically this area here. And this annual plan was something I created for a video called Creating a Periodized Annual Training Plan for Team Sport Athletes, which you can check on this YouTube channel. So we're going to be talking about this area here. There's about 10-11 weeks in this example preseason. If you want to have a look at the off-season training plan, then you can check out the video How to Train in the Off-Season for Team Sport Athletes. But for this video, we're going to specifically be talking about this preseason area here, which is basically going to be following an off-season and preceding the in-season phase, hence the name preseason. So the objectives of the preseason are basically that we want to prepare for peak performance for the upcoming season. So depending on what the athlete's done in the off-season, we might have to make it more general, but if the athlete has done a lot of general work in the off-season, we can be a bit more specific. But ultimately, by the start of the season or the end of the preseason, we want to have the athlete close to their peak, and that way they're going to perform well for the season. But we've got to make sure we don't want to peak them too hard and reduce the volume and fatigue too much, because they have an entire season to last. So basically, we want to start blending that very general training we do in the off season and start turning it into sport-specific physical preparation training. So the actual specific qualities that we're going to work on are going to be dependent on what the athlete has done previously in the off-season. If there was no training prescribed from the club and the individual hasn't done any training at all by themselves, then their preseason is probably going to look a little bit different to someone who's had an intensive off-season doing a lot of general conditioning and strength training. So, but in general, what we want to do, at least towards the latter half of the preseason, is that we want to start doing some agility or change of direction type training, even though we might start the preseason with a bit of maximum speed or acceleration type training. We want to start getting more specific to the movement seen in the sport, which is going to be more change of direction type movements. In terms of power, we want to work on that more fast power type training, which is going to differ from slow power by the basically velocity of the movement that you're doing, and also by the use of the stretch shortening cycle. So we probably want to do with our power training more plyometric type activities rather than heavy implement throws and Olympic lifting stuff. We want to get a little bit more specific at this time of the year. So with our strength type training, we probably want those higher intensity work. So we want to stay away from the hypertrophy, high volume stuff, and we probably want to shift more towards this maximum or general strength training. And probably the intensity will increase towards the end of the preseason, and maybe starts a little bit lower and higher volumes. So lastly, the conditioning aspect of the training of the athlete is probably again going to be dependent on what they've done in the off season. So we might start, if they're an athlete who hasn't done anything, you might start with quite general conditioning and then move into more specific type conditioning, like short interval or repeat sprint type training. Or an athlete who has done all the general training in their off season can probably get right into this short interval and repeat sprint training, and getting more and more specific towards the end. And if there is the sports coach involved, we can always use things like small-sided games and other training drills to actually get a conditioning effect that's going to be pretty specific to the team sport requirements of most team sports. And lastly, just the principles that we want to follow in terms of volume and intensity. we generally want our intensity to increase to competition level, so that when we hit the start of the season, we have had that time, we've actually hit those intensities, so we're ready for that competition level. And our volume, again, depending on what the athlete's done, we might want a slight accumulation in volume at the start, followed by a drop or a maintenance in volume. Or we might want to just maybe maintain our volume throughout the entire preseason and potentially even drop it towards the very start of the season. And that's it for this presentation, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like this informative content, you can follow Movement and Performance on Facebook and Instagram with the links here, and the links will be in the description. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe on YouTube for future updates on more informative videos. So on Facebook and Instagram, you'll find a lot of basically the latest research summarized into these infographics here that are going to be easy to read and understand, so you can stay up to date with the latest research in sports performance training. And again, the links to the Facebook and Instagram profiles will be in the description. Thanks for watching, guys.